Federico, we're back with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind. Just wanted to say hello to you. How you been? You've been on vacation. You and I haven't chatted much lately.
Yeah, I've been on the first part of a 2-part break, and it's been very nice. It's been very nice. I haven't had like a proper vacation like outside of my region of Italy in 4 years, since the last time was summer 2019, and then obviously COVID happened.
Sure.
So it was the first time with Sylvia and the dogs, really just the four of us, away from the central Italy, and it was great. It was great. We needed that, and it was good to see a different part of Italy again, southern Italy, and But now I'm back for a few days, and getting in the review season mood myself. We're gonna talk about this over the next few weeks, but it's almost September, and realistically speaking, we were just chatting before the show. Realistically speaking, a month from today, we are recording this on Thursday, August 17th. A month from today, on the 18th, the new version of iOS may be coming out. Just 31 days or 30 days from today. So it's fun to think about. I'm not nervous at all.
Yeah, I'm not really either. Although I'm thinking about it. I have a very busy September, so it's been on my mind a little earlier than usual. And I kind of feel like this year is the year that macOS may drop around the same time as iOS, just because there's less going on with it. Now, I say that, but I also just downloaded Beta 6, the developer beta, the other day, and I think that this may be the roughest beta so far of macOS. So I'm not sure where all this is heading, but I guess we'll find out soon enough.
Interesting. So I wanted to ask you, now that you mentioned this, what's going on with widgets and this cycle of the iOS beta? Because it seems like every beta introduces new issues for widgets in terms of issues for users and issues on the developer side. Like I've been seeing so many weird bugs with widgets not loading or losing their configuration, or developers struggling to get WidgetKit working, which is, I don't know, maybe concerning at this point in the beta cycle?
I think it is. If it's not concerning this week, it's certainly concerning by next week or so, because you're right. I've seen the same thing. I mean, when I last updated iOS 17, I ended up with a bunch of blank widgets, apps like Timery and Carrot Weather and Paku, the air quality app. And from what I can gather, following on Mastodon, because Joe Rabar was posting about this, it seems like maybe it's something to do with how the background of the widget is drawn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he has some workaround he was trying to do. And I think some people have started bringing their widgets back, but there's something going on that's a bug that when the background of the widget is drawn, it is blanking out the widget. I mean, I may have this wrong. I don't really know there's a particular method that he was posting about that looked like it had to do with how the background was being drawn in the widget. And that was a problem. And you're right, they also reset themselves. And on the Mac, I've had them disappear entirely sometimes between betas. It's concerning mainly because it's probably the main feature on all the OSs this year.
Okay, so definitely not alone with these problems. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, though, I gotta say, I've been having so much fun lately, just installing all the betas I can get from TestFlight. I've been asking you for betas. And so what I've done is I have a separate page on my phone just with the betas that I've gotten for iOS 17 from TestFlight, and then multiple test pages of just widgets of different sizes and different configurations. And I don't know, I'm in that phase, and we're going to talk about this is going to be a theme of my iOS 17 review, and we're going to talk about this on App Stories. But just sort of to give you, this is a classic unplugged behind the scenes segment. The vibe for me, at least this year, is it's a strange year, but in a good way. It's a strange year in the sense that there's obviously something big on the horizon, which is the Apple Vision Pro. And you can tell that a lot of developers are thinking about that, that Apple is focused on that, that iOS and iPadOS and macOS are not like these huge updates with big ideas that are reaching for, these crazy new functionalities. They are grab bag updates. And it's fine. It's a strange year, and it's good because these widgets, whether they are on the home screen or the lock screen or standby, they make it fun. So I'm just having a lot of fun playing around with all these widgets and these wild ideas that now in late August, developers are coming up finally. I was waiting for this moment. Developers are coming up with some really, really interesting ideas for widget interactions.
Yeah, they really are. And you and I ought to start a joint list, I think, so that we can cover this stuff once everything is out and available. And you're right, while it's not a big year from maybe Apple's perspective, they have, by making these interactive widgets possible, made it a big year for third-party developers, which, I mean, that's mostly what we write about. So it is a big year after all for us. It's just no big picture ideas, I guess, in iOS or iPadOS or even macOS for that matter, but lots of other interesting things to try out. Federico, I have
Yes, why do you have this question in the notes?
It's a very important question. This occurred to me this morning because yesterday, the co-working space I go to had a little patio party. It was like, bring your family, they're going to grill some food. And I did. I walked over and they were cooking hot dogs, Federico. And and I had that moment, which I have often in my life doing very American things, which is, I wonder if Federico's ever had a hot dog. Have you had a hot dog, Federico?
Like in my life?
In your life?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm 35. I've had a hot dog.
Okay. I don't know if hot dogs are a thing in Rome, are they?
Oh no, they are. No, they are. They are usually. So here's a fun detour for you, which is actually based on something that I recently, and by recently I mean like 3 days ago, discovered. So I would say when you go to a pizza place in Italy, and you grab a slice of pizza, usually pizza places, they also have like a little hot dog corner. So you can get either a pizza or a hot dog.
Huh. Okay, that's usually not common here, I don't think. I wouldn't say. They have hot dogs in gas stations here, which is weird.
Oh, no, that's not a thing. So usually, so gas stations in Italy, they usually have a little bar, and by bar, I mean a coffee shop. So you go there, you grab a coffee. Like I was driving last week for 6 hours, and we stopped halfway through to refill for gas and to get a coffee. And they have a little shop, so you can buy cookies or a magazine or whatever.
Right.
But pizza places, it's not uncommon, I would say, to have like the place sells you pizza or hot dogs, and maybe they have a little tray with fries. So they also have French fries.
Okay.
So you can
get these are like takeout type places
you're talking about. Takeout. So, but the thing is, this statement would be incorrect because I have learned by visiting southern Italy that what we call in Rome and in central Italy in general, pizza al taglio, meaning you go to a pizza place and you buy pizza by the slice, right?
Right.
And it's not a triangular shaped slice, right? These are like these rectangular trays where they slice the pizza in smaller rectangles.
Sure.
And you buy the slice. I don't know if I'm ever taking you to one of these places.
I don't think so. I don't think we've been to one.
That's pizza al taglio. Taglio means cut.
Okay.
And I've realized that this is only ever common here in Rome and in central Italy in general. In southern Italy, this idea of you go to a place, there's a little shop on the street, and you go there and you buy a slice of pizza. It's not a thing. It's not a thing in southern Italy, and it's also not a thing to have white pizza. Well, we call it white pizza in the sense that there's no sauce on it.
Right.
It's just plain pizza. We call it white. I guess plain pizza would be more appropriate. It's plain pizza with some extra virgin olive oil and some rosemary and maybe a a sprinkle of black pepper on it, and that's it. It's just plain,
No
just
cheese of
oil,
any kind?
no cheese, nothing, just plain pizza
Okay.
with oil and rosemary. It's delicious, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very much a Roman thing.
Did
So-
not know that. I love rosemary, and that sounds
Yeah.
that sounds delicious to me.
It's
But,
very, it's very good. It's very
yeah.
good. But so the thing is, you could realistically very easily get a hot dog in any pizza place. Well, in most pizza places, in Rome or Viterbo or any other central Italian place. I have never been to a sort of like dedicated hot dog place. I don't think we have those. Usually hot dogs are like always associated with a pizzeria.
Interesting. Well, there are dedicated hot dog places in America, obviously, especially in, I guess I would say, in certain cities in particular, like New York or Chicago, because Chicago has its own style of hot dogs. I haven't found in North Carolina a hot dog store. I mean, there are plenty of places that will serve them to you, but I haven't found a place that's just for hot dogs. I'm sure that they exist, but not in my immediate area.
So here's a weird sort of semantic question for you.
Okay.
When you say hot dog, do you mean the complete quote unquote sandwich or just
It's just the meat
the
part?
just the meat part?
I mean the whole thing. I mean the whole
You
thing.
mean the whole thing? You
Yeah,
mean
the,
the whole thing?
the sausage with the bun and whatever toppings.
So you call
have.
that interesting. So you and the thing inside you call a sausage.
No, you would call that a hot dog. I would call them both the same thing.
So that's why I've always been confused.
Okay.
You call it the same thing.
Yes, it's not like you would call it a hot dog sandwich or anything like that. Yeah,
But
no.
the thing is, so the meat part you also call a hot dog.
So I would both say I'm going to the grocery store to buy some hot dogs, in which case I think most people would understand that to mean I'm going to buy a pack of the sausages, but not necessarily anything else. Or I'm going to the vendor on the street to buy a hot dog, and the hot dog that I get comes in a bun with, pickles and mustard and whatever else.
So you want to know why I'm so confused by this?
Why?
Because in Italy, the hot dog is the whole thing, is the bread with the meat inside.
Right.
A sausage is a completely different thing.
Uh-huh.
The meat part of the hot dog, we call it with a German name.
Okay.
In Italy, when you would say I'm going to the grocery store to buy hot dogs, we would say I'm going to the grocery store to buy Würstels.
Würstels. Oh.
Yes, Wurstel.
That's not a word I'm familiar with. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's okay. That clears up some confusion for you right there.
Yes, and that's the name we actually call them, Würstels.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
So
See, I would have thought that you didn't have hot dogs in Italy because you would be too into your good Italian sausage. Because Italians.
and that's the other part of this conversation. I prefer the classic Italian.
So do I. I would
Yes.
much prefer that myself. But yes, I mean, I would think that hot dogs, that people would look down their noses at a mere hot dog compared to a good handmade Italian sausage. But
Only you could think of this segment for a podcast.
yes. Well, these things come to me when I'm sitting here at my desk. Maybe I'm
Good.
losing my mind over the summer. I don't know.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, cool. What's your pick for this?
My pick is an album. It's the Nationals' first two pages of Frankenstein, which is their 9th studio album. It is an amazing album. And I think I mentioned when we did our mid-year recap of what our favorite things this year have been, I mentioned this album and I hadn't picked it for the show yet. So I wanted to talk about it today because I was looking through my Apple Music Replay 23 list yesterday and realized that I had most of the songs on this album in there because I've listened to it even more than I have the Boy Genius album. It is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, that's not to put down the Boy Genius album at all because I love that album too, but this is right up there with it for me. It's a very classic National album, although it's softer and quieter than some of their previous albums. And there are just a lot of great tracks with lyrics that struck a chord with me. Once Upon a Poolside, absolutely classic, mellow song from the National. New Order T-shirt, probably my favorite because it has kind of a lot of lyrics, harkening back to the '80s and New Order, and it's a story of it tells a story about a guy thinking back to his lost love and the things they used to do together, and the New Order T-shirt she used to wear, and that sort of thing. Tropic Morning News, another great one, and there's some great collaborations on here too. Taylor Swift is on a track called The Alcott, which is a really fantastic song. And Phoebe Bridgers is on Your Mind Is Not Your Friend, which is kind of about mental health. And, it's very moody. And one of the things that I thought, a couple of things about the National. This is kind of, I think some people consider it sad dad music, which,
Yes.
I'll admit,
That's what, yes,
it kind of is, moody. It's emo for dads, right? And,
Yes.
and hey, I'll own that. I'm in that category, I suppose. I first saw the National when I didn't really know anything about them in 2008. They opened for REM, and they were incredibly loud. And this was kind of like at one of the height of their periods of their careers, and they were just so good. And that's when I really first got into them. This album, it was interesting reading about it. I don't read the liner notes in Apple Music a lot because I think they're too hidden away, and it's not because I don't find the content interesting. It's because it's just too hard to get to in a lot of ways. But there was some interesting stuff in here about how hard this album was for them to write, because Matt Berninger, who is their lead singer, he was struggling during the pandemic with coming up with songs, and part of it was he said that he felt like he had mined his introspection and his complicated personal feelings so much on previous albums that he just couldn't bear to do that again, especially in the context of being cooped up during the pandemic. And I thought it kind of comes through in a way in the album. It's definitely a quieter, more subdued album in a lot of ways, but one of their best ones, I think.
Very nice. I've never really been into the National, but maybe I should check this out.
Yeah, there are a couple of tracks on here I think you'd like at least.
My pick this week is the new season of Only Murders in the Building. So
Nice.
season 3 just started on Hulu, or if you're like me in Europe, on Disney Plus. And I know, John, that you haven't started the season yet. It's only 3 episodes in at the moment. I'm not sure how many there will be. Probably 10, like last season.
Okay.
So far, what I can tell you is that I'm already liking it a lot more than season 2, and that Meryl Streep is in it. And
Interesting.
she is incredible. So the whole premise for season 3, we actually know from the ending of season 2. At the ending of season 2, we see that Oliver, one of the 3 main protagonists, Oliver Putnam, Charles Aiden Savage, and Mabel, they are in a theater. So they solved the murder for season 2, and there's a flash forward, and we see Oliver directing finally his long-awaited return to Broadway with a play. And as soon as Charles and Mabel are in the audience, and season 2 ends with the main character for this play, played by Paul Rudd, walk on stage, say a couple of lines, and collapse on stage. And that's how season 2 ends. Season 3 picks up from there. And there's a whole explanation of what happened. So Oliver was able to finally put together the funds for a new play in Broadway. And Paul Rudd plays this, character named Ben, who's a big-time Hollywood star, or I guess TV star, who agrees after a long negotiation to do a theater play. And so in the first episode, I'm going to spoil the first episode for you, John.
That's all right.
That's 40 minutes of your time. I'm sorry. But in the first episode, so it's nice because they make you think that Ben collapsed and died on stage because he was poisoned. There's blood coming out of his mouth. There's paramedics arrive on the scene and pronounce him dead at the hospital. Later, there's immediately sort of this memorial service at Oliver's apartment, and everybody's just, having drinks and reminiscing about Ben and wondering what's going to happen to the play now, because like that was the debut of the play and our lead protagonist is already dead. What are we going to do now? And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Ben shows up and he's like, surprise, I'm alive. So he wasn't really dead. He wasn't really dead. It was like this fake death that where like all of his organs stopped and his heart rate got real slow, but he wasn't actually dead. And so there's a major twist right there. It's like, wait, so what are we talking about in this season? Who's the victim? And also it makes you wonder, well, that would have been strange because the TV show is called Only Murders in the Building. And
Right.
that guy died in a theater, not in the building, except that at the very end of episode 1, Oliver, Charles, and Mabel are in the elevator of the Arconia, the building for the TV show, the main building. And they start hearing, as the elevator is going down, they start hearing this creaking sound. And eventually they start hearing and seeing these little drops of blood trickle down from the ceiling. It's like,
Oh, wow.
and they get out of the elevator as soon as it stops and in the lobby, and the whole ceiling of the elevator comes crashing down, and there's Ben on top of it, dead.
Oh, wow.
So Ben is dead in the building for real this time, and that's the murder they are investigating. And it's just, I'm loving this season because I'm really liking the characters. Paul Rudd, who's in a lot of flashbacks, so they're doing a lot more flashbacks and flash forwards, like sort of like multiple timelines, which obviously, as you know me, I appreciate as a storytelling technique. Meryl Streep is amazing. She plays this actress named Loretta, who's been trying, she's like in her 70s or in her 60s, I would say, or something. And she's been trying to break through in the theater world for so many years. And eventually she gets her big break with this play by Oliver Putnam. And she acts and she sings. And I mean, she's Meryl Streep, so she's incredible.
Right.
There's a lot of music. Eventually Oliver decides to turn this ill-fated play into a musical. So the play is originally called Death Rattle, and then it becomes Death Rattle Dazzle. So it's a musical version of it's very good, and it immediately hooks you in, and I want to know more. And we are on a weekly schedule with the episodes, obviously. So I would recommend, as much as Reddit is not one of the best places these days, I would recommend going to the subreddit for Only Murders in the Building because there's a lot of fan theories going around, and it's fun to watch on a weekly basis and speculate with people.
That sounds really good, Federico. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. I'd seen somewhere that this was starting up again, and I just haven't gotten to it. I feel like I'm really behind on TV, which I guess is a good thing given the writer's strike right now. I'm going to need a backlog to get through the strike, but I'll check it out. All right, everybody. Thanks again for listening to this show. And you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Federico and I are also both on Instagram, where Federico is at Viticci. That's Viticci. And I'm at John Voorhees, JohnVoorHs. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.